천자문,
千字文
千字文
In this lesson, we will look at characters 409 through 416 of the 1000 character classic, the 1500-year-old Chinese classic in which no characters are repeated. A splendid nation of ancient China had two capitals.
도읍화하,
というかか
都邑华夏
A capital in the east and another in the west.
동서이경,
東西に経
东西二京
Let's look at line 103, character by character. Capital, metropolis. Hamlet, county. Splendor. Summer. A splendid nation of ancient China had two capitals. Now let's hear it pronounced. You'll hear it from a recording in Korean, Japanese, and Chinese.
도읍화하,
というかか
都邑华夏
Here's line 104. Character by character. East. West. Two. Capital. A capital in the east and another in the west.
동서이경,
東西に経
东西二京
Let's look at a few radicals or components. First, look at 409 and 410. They have a common radical. In 410, that radical appears in its standalone form. That radical means city. But it's a little bit confusing, this radical, because the radical shape is like that when it's used, okay? But if it appears in the left, or if it appears in the right, it's functioning as a different radical. So if you look at the left side, that means hill or pinnacle, and there's a few examples there. And if you look at the right one, the one where the shape appears in the right, those are more of a reference to cities. So in this case, in 409 and 410, it's based on the city radical. So we'll look at those other ones at some point too. So then we have character 414, which means west, but as a radical, it means something more like cover, and it appears in these instances in the classic as an indexing radical. And on 415, we have the character for 2, and that is a radical as well, and there's a few examples of where it appears as an indexing radical, including the character for 5 there. And for the 416th character, I just want to point out how it looks just like this 896 character. So the 896 character means cool, and it has the splash, or the water radical, on the left. So based on the 8 characters of these two lines, I've come up with a word list. I've tried to select words that are common and relevant to Japanese, Korean, and Chinese. Now you'll hear the words spoken in each language. Capital city.
수도,
首都
首都
Gorgeous.
화려,
カレ
华丽
Overseas Chinese.
화교,
華僑
华侨
Summer.
하계,
夏季
夏季
The East.
동양,
東洋
东洋
Tokyo.
동경,
東京
东京
The West.
서양,
西洋
西洋
February.
2월,
2月
2月
Beijing.
북경,
北京
北京
Have a look one more time at the words of this lesson. See which ones you remember. Okay, let's move on. So in this part of the lesson, I give some extended notes on the characters and give each character a rating. A rating of 5 suggests the character is common and essential. A rating of 1 suggests the character is virtually obsolete. So starting on the left side, this one is associated with cities. Notice on the far right, that character means capital. So the city called Kyoto in Japan was once the capital of Japan, and these two characters are used in its name. And now this character is not a frequent one in modern China, and it's not frequent in Japan either. But in Korea, it is part of a government terminology for a town that is bigger than a village, but smaller than a city. This character means brilliant, among other meanings, but it's commonly used to identify things that are Chinese, such as Chinese food or Chinese residing abroad. So if you see this character somewhere and you're not sure what the word means, it could be something in reference to Chinese culture. This one means summer, as in one of the 4 main seasons. Obviously, it's common. This one's obviously common too, since it means east. And the next one means west. And then this one means the number 2. And as I mentioned before, this one refers to capitals, so it appears in the names of capital cities such as Beijing and Tokyo. That's a wrap for this lesson. In the next lesson, we'll look at lines 105 and 106, which go into further detail on the locations of the capital cities mentioned in this lesson.
천자문,
센지문.
千字文.
As always, I remind you that I make these videos partly for my own study purposes. My skills are not advanced in these languages, so it's quite likely I've made some mistakes or forgotten something obvious. And if you do notice something or have a question, let me know in the comments. The goal of this channel is to make a video for each line of the 1000 character classic while using this classic as a lens to explore language study methods and connections between the Chinese, Japanese, and Korean languages. I wish you happy and productive language studies.